guys, welcome to the Light Muse podcast. We're your hosts, Flannery Underwood
and Jessica Cabesi.
So today we're going to be talking about TikTok photography and photo shoot crashing and photographer etiquette. So let's get into it. Okay, Jess, what do we have today?
So I really wanted to talk about this situation. It was brought up in the photography community. You know, we have some controversy sometimes. I wouldn't say it's like a huge controversy, but people were talking about it. Some people were really upset by it. And I think I showed you it.
Yeah, so I'm going to watch it and I'll describe to you what is going on here.
Okay.
So here we go. Okay, so there is a wedding couple, a bride and a groom, and they're out, it looks like in San Francisco. They're walking in like a public courtyard, and there is this photographer that runs up to them, and he is obviously being filmed by his assistant or second shooter, and he approaches them, he shows them his phone, and there's text on screen that says, I make these videos on TikTok. He's like explaining what he does. He finds strangers, he takes photos for them and sends them off. And then right next to this couple is the wedding photographer who's standing right next to both of them. And he's just kind of like looking up at the TikTok guy.
Oh, gosh.
Kind of being like, what are you doing? And he's still explaining. And the photographer asked the TikTok photographer, how much time do you need?
Oh, really?
And he responds, he says, no more than 5 minutes.
Oh, I don't even remember the
and
photographer.
And then the wedding photographer goes, make it 5. And the guy goes, 5? Okay.
Wait, so he said, what, 10 minutes first?
He said 5 minutes. And they're like, 5 minutes. Okay. So he like agreed to that. And then he's showing them, the video continues, he's showing the wedding couple and the wedding photographer his portfolio. And he's like, okay, 5 minutes, great. And then he proceeds to shoot with the couple. And there's text on screen that says, I only took 2.5 minutes of their time. And then there's this like very light, like piano music that's over the top of it as they fast forward through the shoot. And then it ends with the final edited images.
Okay.
And I see it has 5.3 million likes on it.
5.3 million. Wow.
Yeah.
So we do have to know this photographer has, I guess, 6.9 million followers on TikTok. And so I guess when he was showing the couple what was on his phone, maybe he was showing them his account just to show like, hey, I have a lot of followers. Like, we want to do something cool with you. This photo shoot should have never happened. It was the wedding photographer shoot. I don't know what type of photographer he is. I don't know if he is a wedding photographer, but it's as a wedding photographer, I've done so many weddings, and I would never advise anyone to do this, especially, you know, in the photography community. You just have to respect people's other photographers' shoots and other photographers' clients and the jobs that they get, and it's kind of like interrupting somebody's work and interrupting on their workspace. And I don't know if that was really a great idea.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think, you know, this question comes down to, is there such a thing as like photographer etiquette, right? You know, it's like when you have worked so hard to gain this client, and it's not just that you booked this client, it's the fact that there was so much time and energy and money spent on that bride's dress and makeup and hair and prepping, and maybe even getting a permit to shoot at a certain location. And that photographer has brought all his gear and has prepared so much for that moment. And for another photographer to kind of swoop in and take that, I mean, all that we own as photographers are creative ideas, right? And it's the work that we produce. And it just, I understand there is this side, I mean, even just like with some of your videos where, you know, you have shooting photos of strangers, which I think is like a really powerful concept. It's, you know, taking street photography to like a portrait style level. And I think that is really interesting, but it's another thing where you're taking another photographer's photo shoot and like
Exactly.
completely taking it over,
Exactly.
right?
And also think about the wedding photographer. This I don't want to this other photographer put him in a very uncomfortable, awkward situation, and he kind of overshadowed. He This photographer probably felt like the original wedding photographer probably felt overshadowed by this, famous, popular TikTok star. And also, you have to understand the wedding clients handpick their photographer based on their style, based on the way that they edit the photos. So to have somebody who they're not even really familiar with that just comes up to them out of nowhere, you kind of feel put on the spot. Like, you don't really know what they're going to do with the pictures. Like, you haven't signed a contract with them on your very, very special day. So I mean, you can say like, oh yeah, of course they consented in the video, but again, when you're being put in a position like that out of nowhere, sometimes you're just like, okay, I mean, yeah, I mean, sometimes when you're in a
Totally.
pressure situation like that, you just kind of
Go with the flow.
just go with the
Yeah.
flow. Yeah.
Like, what would you have done if you were that wedding
Oh,
photographer?
I'd have been like, no, sorry,
No.
straight up. I'd
I
be
think
like,
I'm
no.
I'm like way too nice. I would have been like, "Oh my God, like can I hold your bounce? Like can I
Flannery would been like, I'll literally just hold all
I'm
your
like,
other
"Oh,
things.
let me like fan her hair for you.
Can
Like
I hold her
get some wind in
bouquet?
there."
Do you need one of my
No.
lenses?
Right? No, I think it is such an interesting question, and I think you're so right. It's like the circumstance of being put on the spot and sometimes not knowing like what's right or wrong, and it just feeling so impromptu. And maybe in the moment you kind of say yes, but afterwards you maybe wish you hadn't said that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like also as a photographer, like you have to stand up for yourself and stand
For
up for
sure.
like your creativity and like um, wow, I just said creativity really weird there.
Love it. Man,
Creativity.
this video really brought out all of these emotions in us right now. We're like
I know.
pronunciating. Oh my God, we're pronouncing words.
Girl, we're not even speaking English right now.
Listen, let me tell you something. If this photographer had come up to me on one of my clients when I'm shooting their wedding, I wouldn't, I would have been like, you're no, like, why would you even ask me
Yeah.
that? That's,
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed that you would ask me that. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Have you ever had an experience where someone has tried to take over your shoot intentionally or even unintentionally? Like you've shot a lot of weddings. Has that ever happened to you?
For weddings, sometimes we have guests who want to take pictures with their like $300 Rebel cameras, whatever it may be. And those are people who I think the bride and the groom are okay with taking pictures and they don't mind that. And I personally don't mind. The issue I have is when another professional, if they're being paid to play a certain role, if they're the videographer, let's say that they're like the DJ or something, I wouldn't expect those people to start taking pictures because I'm not doing
Mm-hmm.
your job. Please don't try to take over mine. So it's just kind of like, um, just do what you were what was agreed upon, and that's it. Don't do any more and don't do any less, and just respect other people's space in that event.
Another question like I have for you too is like what's like your opinion of TikTok photography? Because this TikTok has blown up. It's been around for a couple years, but only in I think the past year, year and a half has it really exploded in a way that it hadn't before. Like what do you think about photographers on TikTok?
It's definitely a different genre of photography. I feel like people on who are who really like TikTok like a certain type of photography. I even noticed, the photographer that we were just referencing earlier. Did you saw his pictures? I mean, I don't personally for me, I don't think from my experience as a wedding photographer, the clients wouldn't want pictures like that. I mean, they're very like they're super super colorful with like the color bubbles. I think you took them into Photoshop, set it to like screen, put like a bright pink bubble on there. Like I used to do that. I love that kind of stuff. Is it the style that they like, and are they going to be like blowing these pictures up and putting them in their house? We don't know that. But it I honestly feel bad for the original photographer. I really do. Like, you can see, like, he even has like an arrow pointed towards him, like the wedding photographer. Like, what? That's the
Yeah,
first.
but he's kind of like, you know what I also think it is like that moment where the TikTok photography approaches the clients, and you can see the photographer is trying to listen, and he's trying to be like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Like he's like kind of like confused and trying to understand the situation, and I totally agree. Like I feel bad for him because it's not a great circumstance to be in for someone to try and like take over your shoot.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. No matter, but people can say, "Oh, it was just a fun little TikTok," but this original photographer is, a professional who's being paid, and it was again hand selected by these two clients who are getting married. So they chose him for a reason. They chose him based on his work ethic, based on his style, based on the his previous work, and then you have this random person who wants, just because he has a lot of followers, he thinks like, let me just interrupt this guy's job and
Yeah.
do a little TikTok video, even if it's 1 minute, even if it's 30 seconds. It's not a nice thing to do. And this TikToker might be the nicest. Look, we don't know. I don't know him personally. Do you know him, Flannery? We both
No.
don't know him. He might be the nicest guy ever. Maybe he's not aware of the wedding photography community and the work that we do and what we go through on a day-to-day basis with weddings. But it's hopefully he learns from the response. I don't think he was. Do you think he was anticipating this type of response? Because it was kind of, people were upset.
I don't think he anticipated a negative backlash, and I think that's why there's this second video floating around with more of like an explanation and showing the consent of the wedding photographer.
I gotta see this. Where is this video? I gotta see this.
It's in the link you sent me.
Oh, no way.
There's two videos. There's like a rotating carousel.
Let's
The
see.
first video is the explanation one you rotate through, and the second one's the original one. But I do have to say that it is also the responsibility of the wedding photographer and the photographer who's set up to shoot to stand up for your own shoot. And he did give consent. You did see in that
True.
video that he agreed, and he said 5 minutes, 5 minutes. So, I think personally we both have our own opinions of how we would handle it. But at the end of the day, this photographer did give consent, and he said you can use these like models, this couple in this instance, this location, everything that I've set up for 5 minutes, go for it. So I think, that's also something to be said, that like you might disagree with it, but at the end of the day, if those people in that scenario have given consent, then, it is what it is. So technically at the end of the day, in that instance for both parties, nothing is amiss, but for us, like I think both of us would have not been appreciative of someone like coming in like that.
You know what, though? I can understand why the original photographer gave consent, but I think deep down he did not want to, but he was put in an awkward situation, very uncomfortable, and he didn't want to be seen maybe by his clients as being difficult or like,
Totally.
when you're put in that
Yeah.
situation, you don't want your, what if his clients really did think it was like a cool little experience, and then he's prohibiting them from doing that. He's like keeping them from this like cute little moment, and you never know. So I think no matter what, it was like, for him, he wasn't winning anything either way.
Yeah.
Whether he agreed to it, whether he didn't agree.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, I'm sure that this TikToker did not anticipate the reaction that he got, because there were so many upset responses. Like, let's read some of these comments, shall we? Somebody wrote, "This was incredibly disrespectful to the photographer. This couple chose and paid to capture their day. I don't care how amazing you think your photos are. Butting in to take over some precious minutes from someone else was a bad move, and I hope this isn't something you do again. If I were the couple's chosen photographer, I'd be pissed, but you put him and the couple on the spot, so I feel for them in this instant. And also, you know what they wrote? They're like, side note, showing off your portfolio while their photographer just stood there, no, not okay, which that's very interesting because now I'm kind of realizing that he did do that. He was showing his portfolio off, which I think that just like adds salt to the wound. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, look how amazing,
Totally.
look how more amazing I am than this person right here. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like a total,
It's like a flex.
I want to use the bad word.
It's like a flex.
I'll bleep it out. It's a move, okay? It really is.
He was like flexing so hard. The
It's
photographer's
not good.
like,
It's not classy. You know, I think, again, like it goes back to this idea. It's like, it's not some random person on the street that you want to show and be like, hey, like, I am a legit photographer. Like, don't worry, like, I'm not just some like rando creep coming up to you. Like, I have a professional portfolio. But yeah, to like flex on another photographer standing right there, it's like,
and he
oh,
has
yeah.
millions of followers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of like, oh, you really can't say no to me. I have so many people who follow me and love me. And it's kind of like,
Yeah.
it was just not a good situation all around. And I really hope,
Yeah.
you know what? I hope other people on TikTok don't see this and think that it's okay, because it's not okay. I would definitely say something. I have a big mouth. I'll probably say something. I'll be polite about it. I'll probably do it away from my clients. Because that's also your reputation. You definitely don't want to be seen as a bully or somebody
Yeah.
mean or somebody difficult. What would you
Yeah.
do? Let's say right now you're doing a photo
Yeah.
shoot. Big clients, another photographer, a famous TikToker comes up to you and your clients and wants to do a photo shoot. What do you say?
I think it depends on the client. I think it really depends on like if there's a relationship pre-existing between the clients and that other photographer. But I really do agree. Like, I think it's on the shoulders of the photographer that's butting in, understanding that he is creating or she is creating a unnecessary, awkward, pressured situation that doesn't need to be there in the first place. And I think it just goes back to that there's pretty much no instance where another photographer should take over another professional photographer's shoot in any kind of like capacity.